There were so many families now living in the compound and so many children that he could not remember all their names. He glared down at the two of them, gripping the window frame so tightly that his nails dug into the paint. He pivoted and walked out of his office, thumping down the stairs. With each step, his jaw clenched tighter, and acid burned a hole in his stomach. He banged out of the building, but outside the schoolyard gate he halted, wrestling for control. This would not do. To show anger was unseemly. The school bell clanged, calling the students in from recess. He stood calming himself, inhaling deeply. He focused on the fragrance of fresh-cut hay, of bread baking in the nearby communal kitchen. From across the compound, where the new worship hall was being built, came the whine of a saw and the echoes of a dozen hammers pounding nails. The virtuous sounds of honest labor, of a community working toward his greater glory. And I am their shepherd, he thought. I lead the way. Look how far they had already come. It took only a glance around the burgeoning village, at the dozen new homes under construction, to see that the congregation was thriving. At last, he opened the gate and stepped into the schoolyard. He walked past the elementary classroom, where children were singing the alphabet song, and entered the classroom for the middle grades. The teacher saw him and jumped up from her desk in surprise. "Prophet Good, what an honor," she gushed. "I didn't know you would be visiting us today." He smiled, and the woman reddened, delighted by his attention. "Sister Janet, there's no need to make a fuss over me. I simply wanted to stop in and say hello to your class, and see if everyone is enjoying the new school year." She beamed at her students. "Isn't it an honor to have Prophet Good himself visiting us? Everyone, please welcome him." "Welcome, Prophet Good," the students answered in unison. "Is the school year going well for all of you?" he asked. "Yes, Prophet Good." Again in unison, so perfect it sounded as if it had been rehearsed. Katie Sheldon, he noticed, sat in the third row. He also noticed that the blonde boy who'd flirted with her sat almost directly behind her. Slowly, he began to pace the classroom, nodding and smiling as he surveyed the students' drawings and essays tacked on the walls, as if he really cared about them. His attention was only on Katie, who sat demurely at her desk, her gaze tipped downward like any properly modest girl. "I don't mean to interrupt your lesson," he said. "Please, continue what you were doing. Pretend I'm not here." Yes." The teacher cleared her throat. "Students, if you could please open your math books to page 203. Complete exercises 10 through 16, and when you're finished, we'll go over the answers." As pencils scratched and papers rustled, Jeremiah wandered the classroom. The students were too intimidated to look at him, and they kept their eyes focused on their desktops. The subject was algebra, something that he had never bothered to master. He paused by the desk of the blond lad who had so clearly shown an interest in Katie and, looking over the boy's shoulder, he saw the name written on the workbook. Adam McKinnon. A troublemaker who would eventually have to be dealt with. He moved on to Katie's desk, where he stopped and watched over her shoulder. Nervously, she scribbled an answer, then erased it. A patch of bare neck showed through a parting of her long hair, and the skin flushed a deep red, as though seared by his gaze. Leaning close, he inhaled her scent, and heat flooded his loins. There was nothing as delicious as the scent of a young girl's flesh, and this girl's was the sweetest of all. Through the fabric of her bodice, he could just make out the swell of newly budding breasts. "Don't fret too much, dear," he whispered. "I was never very good at algebra either." She looked up, and the smile she gave him was so enchanting that he was struck speechless. Yes, this girl is definitely the one. Flowers and ribbons draped the pews and cascaded from the soaring beams of the newly built worship hall. There were so many flowers that the room looked like the Garden of Eden itself, fragrant and shimmering. As the morning light beamed in through the ocular windows, 200 joyous voices sang hymns of praise. "We are yours, O Lord. Fruitful is your flock and bountiful your harvest."